Sea of Red, it's time for another Fireside Chat, the official podcast of Flames fans. It's go time.
Well, it's been quite a week for the Flames, and they are finally not 32nd. The Flames have found a way to win some hockey games. As always, I'm Dan alongside Matt. Matt, do you think we'd be sitting here talking about 3 straight wins for this team?
Well, even San Jose won 5 of 7 last year, so anything's possible.
I don't think there's ever been a team that's won less than double digits in this, like in the 82 game era.
No, the Capitals came close, but yeah, I think they finished with like 11 or 12.
Well, let's not dwell on the past. Let's talk about the success the Flames are having. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they had 12 or 13. But this week the Flames doing better than that. They started the week in Chicago taking on the Blackhawks, and once again Bedard had the best of the Flames in a 5-2 loss in Chicago. This was a terrible game, I thought. The only player that looked good, in my opinion, was Sam Morton. Sharangovich was actually a hindrance for the team. The entire Flames team looked terrible. This was a bad game.
Yeah, and despite going down early 2-0, they did manage to find their way back to tying the game, and then the wheels fell off the wagon entirely.
Yeah, and even when they found their way back, I don't know if they were good or if they were just better than Chicago, if that makes sense. I can't point to even 8 minutes of a bright spot in this game. Yeah,
well, Chicago still is not a very good hockey team. They're better than they were last year, but they still suck in a lot of ways. So, the Flames being able to tie it was not overly a surprise, and the Flames just do not have enough in the tank.
No, it was a bad game for the Flames, I thought. But good to see Sam Morton in the lineup. I thought good to see Morton not just in the lineup, but looking good. And I think that's true of the whole week.
Yeah, well, and we've seen that with pretty much all of the guys that have got recalled this season. Like Kuznetsov, he's basically found a home permanently in this lineup. Honzek was looking good before the injury. Just
on Kuznetsov, his 10-game waiver exemption is over too, so they're probably keeping him here for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I would assume so. And, Karen's looked good and Morton looked good, so, it's a good thing for this team if they decide to move on from people, that they actually have quality guys that are ready to step into the lineup.
Flames moved on from Chicago and played the second of their back-to-back in Buffalo the next night, taking on the Sabres. I was not too optimistic after the Chicago game going in, but the Flames scored 4 times in the third to pull away from the Sabres. The Sabres wearing their 90s black and red and silver jerseys in this one. Maybe that was the bad luck, I don't know. Or maybe they're just the Buffalo Sabres. And the Flames win 6-2 in this game. A big Calgary win.
Yeah, Buffalo looked like how Buffalo normally does when we play them. Calgary actually showed up for once and just beat the tar out of them.
And an important note here, Dustin Cooley in net, and Dustin Cooley gets his first win as a Flame in this one.
Devon,
that's right. I keep mixing up Dustin Wolf and Devon Cooley. Devon Cooley gets first win as a Flame. Interesting roster move here. I mean, this is the game when we saw Beecher join the team, but Lomberg out of lineup. And of all people to take out a lineup, I wasn't expecting Lomberg to come out. Were you surprised by that?
Yes and no. I was glad to see that Beecher got put into the lineup, and somebody needed to sit, and unfortunately it was Lomberg. But
I mean, after what we saw the night before, I thought it would be Sharangovich or even Zary.
Yeah, well, and how would you say, with the Honzek injury and Karen's getting sent down, the Flames need to give both Zary and Sharangovich some runway to try to figure out their game.
It's true. The Flames extended their NHL best streak to 40 straight wins when they have scored 4 more goals in a game. So, as terrible as they are, they've got an NHL best streak at something.
Yeah, and I find it amusing that the Tampa Bay Lightning and Florida Panthers are second and third, with Florida having 20 and 19 for Tampa, respectively. So, like, we're literally doubling up second place.
So all we got to do is score 4 goals in a game and we're golden.
Yeah.
That's the whole
now,
key.
Now, the problem is...
Can't score 4 goals per game.
Yeah. It's like on the rare days where the moon aligns with all the stars, that, you know,
where the moon aligns with the stars and all 18 dressed players are playing well enough to get us 4 goals.
Yep, exactly.
Anyway, much better game than Chicago game. I mean, yes, they're playing Buffalo, but I think this was a good game to get guys going. I think this is a good game to really get the players feeling confident about themselves.
Yeah, to me, it basically felt like the Chicago game part 2, where we were playing Chicago's role and Buffalo was playing our role.
Yeah.
Where, like, because Buffalo was kind of all over the place and, you know, we kind of kicked their butt.
Buffalo kind of looked like your pickup hockey team where it was just a bunch of guys playing, and I had no idea what they were trying to do or what their strategy was. It just seemed like a bunch of guys out there, everyone kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah, well, there's a reason why it's been 14 years of missing the playoffs, and with how their team looks, it'll probably be another 5 or 6. Like, it's not going to be anytime soon.
Probably not, no. Then the Flames had 2 days off and came back for the first of their second back-to-back. I know it's hard to think of, but yeah, they're playing 2 back-to-backs this week. So they came back to Calgary to take on Dallas. This was the Hockey Night in Canada game for this week on Saturday, and the Flames ended up winning 3-2 in a shootout for this one. Cooley in net again. I don't think either of us expected Cooley to get the Dallas game, but impressive, and gets another start, 2 back-to-back starts, 2 back-to-back wins for Cooley. And also, Huberdeau fighting, another thing I don't think we'd ever think we would see.
Well, you know, he does have the dad energy, and somebody touched one of the kids, so you must die now.
Good. I thought he'd outsource that to Lomberg.
Yeah, well, you know, after he took Peltier under his wing in previous seasons, he seems to have taken Coronado under his wing now, so, you know, take that, Rantanen.
That was a nasty hit on Coronado. I'm glad that he's okay. He was wearing the full bubble the next game, but still out there, still productive. I'm glad to see that it could have been a lot worse, and it wasn't. Yeah,
and major props to Devon Cooley. He robbed the Stars of a win in this one. Yep.
This reminds me very much of the Winnipeg game last week. Like, the Flames played a good team and were able to compete with the good team. And you're seeing flashes of, wow, these guys can do this.
Yeah, and like early, the Stars were all over the Flames, and like if Cooley had let one in at that point, the Flames probably lose this game, but they were able to weather the storm long enough and, you know, force it all the way to a shootout, and thankfully Cooley was able to actually stop the puck in this one, after his previous one facing 2 shooters and allowing 2 goals. You know, and it all worked out.
It worked well. I thought Cooley looked fantastic, as he continues to do. I think that as much as we don't like the hit on Coronado, I wonder if that's the thing that really got the Flames going in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Glad to see that. You were talking about Peltier, and as you were talking, I just wanted to look it up and see, where is he these days? A lot of Flames fans thought this guy was the heir apparent. He's really never caught on the NHL. He didn't catch on a bad team with the Flames. Still can't catch on in Tampa. He's playing in Syracuse. 15 games, 18 points. Maybe he's not what Flames fans thought he was.
Yeah, it seems to be one of those quad A players who's too good for the AHL.
The Dryden Hunt type.
Yeah.
So maybe we didn't miss out on as much as we thought. And then after that Dallas game, the Flames go on the road once more, going to Vancouver for the second half of back-to-back, taking on the Vancouver Canucks. And the Flames score 5 straight in this one to defeat Canucks for their 3rd win in a row. 2 things I didn't think we'd say this week. This is game 41 now of the Flames scoring more than 4 points and winning. And Great. I thought a fun game here. Zary scored for the first time since the home opener. Sharangovich gets on the board. The Flames looked good all night. Andersson got 3 points in the game. Like this, to me, when I'm watching this, I thought, wow, if you were watching this game by itself, you would not think the Flames are 31st. They looked like a playoff quality team.
Yeah, and, it is a little bit weird in how, with basically the entire league, basically everybody more or less being even, the Flames are technically only 6 points out of a playoff spot now. And while other teams have games in hand, they, if they continue to actually play like this, they might actually find their way back into some sort of respectability. But, things could easily go the other way, especially with the opponents they have this week.
So close yet so far.
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver, I guess I was listening to the post-game show, and on the Vancouver post-game show, I guess they announced the player of the game is Rasmus Andersson. The Vancouver player of the game was Rasmus Andersson.
Nice.
So they gave him the hard hat as the hardest worker of the game. Andersson looked great. I mean, he was named the first star of the week this week for the whole league. Fantastic game. Matt, would you say Andersson might be playing the best hockey of his career?
Yeah. Frankly, he has, been absolutely fantastic. And it's stuff like this that makes where the Flames are tough, because a player like that, you don't want to just let walk away.
Player like that, you might go, maybe we can get good from him for a couple more years.
But at the same time, being intellectually honest, it does make more sense to, he's doing awesome. That just increases the trade value.
Well, I was going to say, when he's playing like this, if you still think Andersson should be traded, it generally means you're going to get a little bit more for him.
Yeah, like that, you're talking like a first plus, and probably a good prospect to go with that first. So we'll see. Definitely boosting that trade value if the Flames go that route, and seeing how management has talked this week, we'll probably expect a contract extension for 8 years or something stupid.
Well, we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Before we do, let's wrap up the week for the Flames. After that 4 games this week, the Flames have now played 24 games. They have 8 wins, 13 losses, and 3 overtime losses for a total of 19 points. No longer last place in the league. That's held by Nashville at 16 points. The Flames with 19 are now 15th out of 16th in the West and 31st out of 32 in the league. Just for comparison for fans, Vancouver has 20 points, St. Louis has 20 points, Chicago has 24 points. So, 2 more points and we would jump into essentially 13th in the West.
Yeah.
And the last wild card, 25 points. The Flames 6 points out of a wild card spot.
Yeah. And you see, this is where, the Flames last year with the late game comebacks, if they had won 3 or 4 of the games that they lost by a goal, you're already in a playoff spot and actually in one of the top 3 seeds in our division, probably. It's how quickly the margins can go one way or the other.
For sure. It's, I guess it's finally given me some hope this year. I think you and I have both been sitting here week after week going, wow, is this team going to stay at the bottom forever? And while they have a big hole, don't get me wrong, they've got to crawl out of a big hole. Putting together 3 wins in a week, in a row, much less a whole week, it's like, wow, okay, maybe these guys can do this.
Well,
maybe there's still some fight left in them. I'm not saying they can make the playoffs, but, maybe they can be a respectable team this year.
Well, the thing is that this team from this year and last year, it's the same team. And all the parts that made
week, yeah.
That made them good last year still exist. It's just, is that, worth keeping, or, choosing to go in a different direction because,
And even if you go in a different direction, I mean, okay, let's say worst case, if you will, how many players the Flames moved this year? Like, you're not moving half your roster.
No, like, realistically, you might move, like, a depth defenseman or two.
Does anybody want our depth defenseman?
Possibly. A guy like Joel Hanley, he would probably get you a mid-round pick. A guy like Lomberg, a lot of teams would be interested in adding that little bit of sandpaper to
I don't
their
think the
fourth
Flames
line.
move Lomberg.
Well, he is technically a free agent at the end of the year. So, like, if you are rebuilding it, it makes sense.
Do you have somebody to
move
replace him?
About 8 guys.
As tough guys, really? Who do you think's our tough guy you replace him with?
Well, basically half of the AHL veteran guys, like Clark Bishop would probably be my number one guy for that.
Okay,
and
so you've got 2.
You'd probably expect that Pospisil would be back later in the season. So,
like, I mean, if the Flames move anyone of substance, it might be Andersson, maybe Kadri, maybe Coleman.
Yeah.
Like, even, and those 3 guys are not the only ones doing something here. I mean, would it be a blow to the Flames? Sure. We won't talk about trade scenarios right now. We've done that. But I think that with enough of these other guys still on the roster, even if the Flames thought, you know what, let's run for it. I'm not saying you go and acquire, but you've still got enough pieces that it's not like taking those 3 out decimates this team, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, and like, for sure. Yeah. Well, and you look at a guy like Hunter Brustevich, and while, throwing a kid into the blue line does, will have, there is a drop off between Andersson and Brustevich. It's not a monumental gulf between, him and Andersson.
I think it is at this point, but again, I think, if this team is going to, I'm not saying they should run for the playoffs. I think there's a huge gulf there, but is it going to affect their points all that much in the end? Probably not.
No, that's what I'm getting at. Like
in terms of talent, yeah, there is.
Yeah, but, in terms of, like, is this going to knock 10 points off of the standings? No. Maybe 2, maybe 3. Like, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what goes on there, but I just, and we'll talk more about this with the Maloney stuff, but I just hope the Flames are cautiously optimistic after 3 wins in a row. You don't want to keep pieces to the detriment of the rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
But before we talk about that, let's talk about some maybe odd roster moves. On Monday last week, a week ago today, the Flames brought Hunt and Morton up from the AHL and sent Kearns back to the Wranglers. I was really surprised when I read this because I thought Rory Kearns looked good enough to stay with the NHL team. I was really surprised they cut his audition so short.
Yeah, and realistically, to me, it's like, okay, you passed this checkpoint, and we need to, motivate Sharangovich and Zary to try and get them back on track. So if and when a forward position in the top 9 opens up again, he'll probably be here to stay. It's just that, you need Sharangovich and Zary to actually be playing competent hockey. And
we didn't know it on Monday, but the Flames had already put in their waiver claim for Johnny Beecher, we'll talk about in a second. And I think that knowing they're last in the league, that they would get the first rights on that claim. So I think that's why Kearns got sent down.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of picking up Beecher. The Flames organizationally do not have centers, and he's only 23. He can actually win faceoffs. He's big and he's fast. He's a little bit of a chaos magnet and takes too many penalties, and that's part of the reason why Boston let him go. But for the Flames, organizationally, we need a good 4th line player, and Beecher is a far, far superior option than any of the guys that we've tried to shoehorn into either being a winger playing center or any of the center options.
Just to introduce people to Johnny Beecher if they don't know him. As Matt said, he's a big boy. He's 6'3", 220 pounds, 24 years old, from Elmira, New York. Shoots left and plays center. He was drafted by the Bruins in round 1, number 30 in the 2019 entry draft. He played for Michigan, and then really for last year was a full-time NHLer. Played 78 games, got 11 points in that time. Went from being a full-time NHLer to being scratched most of the year. Only played 6 games with Boston all year and has already played 3 with Calgary. Like you said, he's a good centerman, and I really think that part of the reason we've seen Zary look better this week is because he's not a center. Like, this gave them the centerman they need. Is he a great centerman? No. Is he good enough to be a fourth-line centerman on the 31st place team? Yes. He's making $900,000 this year. This could be like an AJ Greer, who we bring in off waivers, play for a year, and we never see him again. Or he could be a long-term Flame. But at 24, he's got the right age range that Conroy's looking at if he wants to stick around.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can just plug and play him as your fourth line center / 13th forward indefinitely for like the next 3 or 4 seasons, provided he's playing at an adequate enough level to be there. And, anytime you can add a 6'3", 230 plus pound forward who can skate, it's like, yes, sure, please. Walk right in.
Johnny Beecher, if anyone's looking for him and hasn't seen him, is wearing 18 for Calgary. Oh. So, yeah, I like this. I mean, you give up nothing to bring him in, even if even if he just stays here for this year and then you bring up Kieran or somebody in that role next year, fine. But I think that you and I have talked a lot about the biggest deficiency up front being centers. Now they've got a real center.
Even realistically, looking at like the talent pool, like Cole Reshney, if he sticks at center, which is not a given, he's more of an offensive guy. So if he's on your fourth line, that's not really ideal. They don't really have anybody else organizationally that fits that role in the prospect pool that's knocking on the door anytime soon. So, it is one of the weaknesses of this team is just the lack of center depth of all types. And, it's good to have Reshney in there, but, you need to have, 7 or 8 different prospects to, fill out your roster and hope for that some of them actually turn into players.
Yeah, I mean, the closest they've got is Kirkland, right? Who's 29. I mean, he had that role starting the season. I think he could do it. You mentioned Clark Bishop earlier. He plays center a lot, but he's 29. Like, it's easy to find a fourth line plug and play center, but at 24, I think there's still some lessons to be learned in terms of what Beecher is.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think he's top 2 forward material? No, I think he's probably destined to be your 4C. But I think it's a better option than putting Zary there.
Yeah, and also stylistically for how he plays, he meshes a lot better with Klapka and Lomberg in the crash and bang, let's create havoc, everybody line.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's looking good there. I don't think he's the big hitter. I think that's Lomberg's job there, but I look at him as kind of the puck mover of that group.
Yeah, but, he gets in on the forecheck and pushes people around. He's not like a, Klapka or Pospisil where he flattens people, but, it's just a significant upgrade to the 4C spot.
For free, I'll take it.
Yep.
And then on Thursday, Eric Francis announced that after the hit Honzek had with Michael Backlund, he has now had surgery and could be out for up to 6 months. Too bad for Honzek. He hasn't really played a whole pro season yet. I don't even think he's played a junior season. He's always seems to be hurt. But that opened up the winger spot for Zary, which again, I think is where Zary needs to be.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that Honzek got hurt again. Hopefully he can have some time where he's actually healthy for an extended period of time, it might end up being where he's one of those guys like Zary who kind of runs into the injury bug and just never recovers. Still too early to be seen, but, hopefully he gets well soon and
yeah,
can
and I
have
mean
a
we've
good
seen that cost guys their
off-season.
pro careers.
Yeah.
Now, when Zary went down, a lot of people thought that they should have brought Matvei Gridin back up. What were your thoughts on that, Matt?
Leave Gradin back down there all season until you're basically moving out people. Like if you move out Coleman, you'll move out Kadri, then bring him back. But just let him tear the AHL up, be the awesomest player on the Wranglers, and just, dominate down there.
Yeah, I agree with
That's
you.
the best thing for him.
And Honzek was a winger. Again, they needed that winger spot, in my opinion, for Zary. Like, if you brought Gridden up, he'd be on the wing. I don't think you want Zary at center. I think Zary's looking better with Backlund and Coleman because he's back on the wing, which we said even going into this season's where he needs to be. Like, I think they want to get him going. And even Sharangovich, we've seen moved up the lineup. They want to get those guys going. I think both those guys need to be wingers to do that. So, blessing in disguise in a way, I think, by losing Honzek, you get Zary back where he should be.
Well, and in the hypothetical that, like, say, Kadri and Coleman move on, you need guys like Zary and Sharangovich to be contributing offensively to an extent to kind of, minimize the loss of those guys. So that way you can bring out guys like Cairns and Gradin up to take spots as well. And, again, not like completely decimate your team while moving things along on the retool rebuild.
Yeah, and especially with, Zary having a new deal, they want to give him the chance to get going, and he really hasn't had that chance yet this year.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, and last week, like I literally said that like he should just be put with Backlund and Coleman, and to get his game back going, and sure enough,
he did,
that's
yeah. And I'd even say Sharangovich has got going too, being with Kadri and Farabee.
Yep.
I mean, we got a goal from both those guys last game. We'll see if that continues, but I think, getting off that forward line has helped both those guys.
Mm-hmm.
With that, I think that's the major on-ice news for the Flames this year, I guess, or this week. I guess now we have to talk about Don Maloney and all this Maloney baloney that happened this week. For fans that don't know, Don Maloney did a media availability with Brendan Parker, and first off, why do you put Maloney in there? Like, the man is not good at doing media. Why do you not put Conroy in there, the guy who can make anybody believe what he says? He's the better media guy.
Well, after this week with Cooley's interviews, it's like is Cooley Conroy's lost, unknown son, and yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me that Conroy wasn't the face of that type of interview, especially because he's the general manager, not Baloney. And then for the gaslighting and talking down to that Maloney did to the fans, like, Calgary is not Columbus or, Nashville, where, people do not care about hockey. People in the city know exactly what's going on and what this team needs. And coming out and saying bullshit like, oh, we're renovating, not rebuilding, when you're 32nd at the time, it's like, come on, dude. Like, stop BSing us. Like, get your head out of your posterior.
We won't play the interview for media rights issues. We won't play it. We encourage fans to go watch it. But, I mean, he even said rebuild, and then he backtracked on it and said, like, rebuffle or something. Like, he made up some word to not say rebuild. And I don't understand why I mean, even when Conroy took over and said we're retooling, we're rejigging, we're like, why are we so allergic to the word rebuild?
And yes, like I understand that, like they're afraid of basically being Detroit or Buffalo or Ottawa, who have been in the wilderness for the greater part of a decade. You know what gets you stuck in the mud for a decade? Trying to win when your team is garbage. And like, even if everything goes perfectly for this season and they actually make the playoffs, they're going to lose in 4 or 5 games, and everybody's going to be going, well, that was a great waste of time. Great to not have the assets from Andersson, not have the assets from Kadri, not have the assets from Coleman.
Well, this is the thing, right? Like, I don't think you can win with the fan bases here. If the Flames go, like you said, to the playoffs, get blown out in round 1, everyone's going to be complaining that, they gave up all that draft capital. If they don't make the playoffs, fans are going to complain they didn't make the playoffs.
Well, honestly, when you're 32nd, basically, at the end of November, 31st now, like, it doesn't matter what level of fan you are. It's like, well, duh, you're not making the playoffs. Like, literally, only one time has a team been 10 points out of a playoff spot and actually made the playoffs since 1967. And that was the St. Louis Blues, who went on a ridiculous, 32-2 run the year that they won the Cup, and they only qualified by a single point. And they basically just had to win out the balance of their schedule, and they actually managed to do it. Like, it's not an easy or feasible task. And, you're... Especially when...
Like, I don't... It's not feasible. We all know it's not. So why don't we just use the word rebuild? Why do you think they're so allergic to this?
Well, and then, on top of it, he kind of trashed McKenna, too, as the... and
yeah, I don't remember the exact word, but it's like McKenna's not the only prize, or some scouts don't even think he's the best player in the draft anymore.
Yeah, and it's and he also said that, I do not want us picking in the top 5, and it's like, dude, look at any team who's actually won the Stanley Cup in the last ever, since the draft was a thing. All of them have multiple top 5 picks as the core foundation parts of their team. The only way you get them is by sucking. You can occasionally, once every 10-15 years, fall into a superstar in the late rounds of the draft, like the Flames did with Goudreau, like Fleury, like Wolf. But that's an exception, and it's also one guy. You need 13 or 14 good players on your team to actually win anything.
And I think the Flames have the supplementary pieces.
Yeah, it's just that, you need to add more. And, if you're... Basically, why I feel the last iteration of the Flames failed was that they tried to shortcut their rebuild. And, doing things like the Hamonic trade, or not just embracing sucking for a while, and trying to leapfrog over doing the rebuild properly. If the Flames had 2 or 3 more good players from the draft, they probably actually beat the Oilers a couple years ago. They probably actually advanced to the finals that year, maybe win the Cup. But, they didn't have
Matt,
the guns.
I have a theory. I have a theory of why I think this whole thing happened. You tell me what you think. I have a feeling, even going into this season, the coach didn't have a contract. They re-signed the coach. Conroy still doesn't have a contract. I have a feeling there might be some, let's say, 2 sides battling in the GM's office. And I think it might be Maloney and ownership, because Maloney really speaks for ownership, who want to almost do the tree living model of trade your assets, get better now. If we're not good now, we'll figure it out later. I mean, that was really, as much as we praise Tree, that was the model there, is build for this year. I think Conroy wants to rebuild, And I think that there might be a little bit of a war going on there, and there might be a bit of back and forth and two different opinions. And I'm wondering if the reason Maloney did the interview is because he almost overrode Conroy and said, we're not going on TV with your vision. We're going on TV with kind of the ownership perspective.
Yeah, in which case,
I don't know. I haven't heard from insiders. It's the only thing that makes sense to me, because even if, let's say, Conroy couldn't do the interview, even Dave Nonis is better in front of a camera. Like, why do you put Maloney out there for any other reason?
Yeah. And, if you're talking financially, if the Flames are, at the time, missing the playoffs 5 years in a row and still limping along, saying everything's hunky-dory when we're going into a new building, nobody is going to want to pay anything near the price tags that are going to be charged for season tickets or game day sales or any of it. I'm having a hard time when I can't, on occasion, miss games selling tickets now at $100 for my seats, and if you look at the, what it'll be in the new building, it'll be nearly $300 for the same seats.
And that's just the seat. And you're a season ticket holder and you probably don't do everything, but if it's your only game or one of 2 or 3 you're going to, because you're buying these at the door, you're buying beer, you're buying dinner, that $100 seat becomes a $200 night, and that's going to double in the new building.
Yeah. And, as a consumer, if, the team still has their head up their ass, why are you going to want to fork over that much money for basically an organization that's being run completely incompetently?
I want our fans to tell us this. You tell me what you think. I think fans in this market would be okay if they came out and said, we're rebuilding, give us 4 years. I think people would still pay to support the team and go on that journey. It's this, we don't know what we are, and we're being talked down to and being told there's no rebuild. I think that's what's going to piss off Flames fans.
Oh, yeah. I look at Chicago, I look at San Jose with Bedard and Celebrini, and it's hey, those guys are actually awesome to watch and worth the price of admission. The next handful of years, there are going to be guys in the draft that are of that caliber. If we suck, we're likely getting one of them. That will sell tickets in the new building.
And people are already excited by Sam Morton and Jan Kuznetsov and, all these other young guys that even if it takes a little bit to get those guys, that fans can get excited by. But as a Flames fan, this whole, we're not going to say we're rebuilding, but we sort of are, but don't tell anybody, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I think
I've been a season ticket holder since 2004. That interview was literally the first time I considered canceling my season tickets. And
I've heard that from a few people.
And it's been since 2004.
Yeah.
And, how do you continue to support literally the most incompetent organization in hockey? Because, even teams like Buffalo and Nashville and San Jose and St. Louis all know that the writing's on the wall that their team sucks and they're trying to do something about it.
Well, that's it. And they're willing to say, you know what, this is what's going on, right? It's and I don't know why we don't want to admit it. And again, does Murray not want us to admit it? I don't
know what the big deal is,
I mean, they're still going to sell tickets. Even bad cities, they're not empty. I mean, Phoenix was empty. People would still go to see Bedard. People would still go to see these. I think the Calgary fan base, if they knew we're rebuilding, would still go there to watch those young Flames. I don't understand this whole thing. I think, again, Maloney went out there and we haven't heard really from Conroy at all this season, which is also not like Conroy. I mean, usually when the going gets tough, even when he wasn't the GM, they put Conroy in front of the camera because he can, yuck it up and he can, make jokes and make everybody feel comfortable. And, you and I have talked to Conroy at rookie camp, and it's supposed to be a 5-minute interview and it turns into 35 because who doesn't like talking to Craig Conroy? The fact we've really not seen him at all this season, I think there's some internal management strife.
Yeah, and it's quite ridiculous. To my mind, if you're not winning and there's no realistic feasibility that you're going to win, tear it down. Like, you see that teams that do bold things, like Vegas, like Florida, they end up getting rewarded for their bold moves. And, Calgary has always been the mushy middle, too afraid to do anything. And we continually suck, basically being 15th overall in the 30-team league to 20th. And, we might squeak into a playoffs. For example, since 05-06, the Buffalo Sabres have won more playoff series than the Calgary Flames, and they haven't made the effing playoffs in 14 years. Like, come on. Obviously, what you're doing is not working at all.
And from a business perspective, like you said, if Murray Edwards wants to give return investment in the new building, you need it full. And if you're pissing people off, like, you've been a Flames fan, season ticket holder as long as I've known you, and you're thinking about, you are on a Flames podcast, and you're thinking about, giving up your seasons. Like, if you want the building full, admit what you're doing, and this market will support it.
Yeah, like, I'm excited when I see Wolf play. I'm excited when I see Coronado and all the other young guys that come up. I don't go to watch Nazem Kadri. I like Nazem Kadri. I like Rasmus Andersson.
Don't tell Nazem.
I do not go there to watch those guys. Because, in 3-4 years when this rebuild, retool is, approaching the ending zone, those guys are going to be out of the league. Like, they're going to be, like, nearly 40 years old, and, like, they might be, like, a fourth-line plugger on some team. Like, that's not a guy that you're paying attention to for the long term. And there's absolutely no point in being invested in those guys for what, in effect, are placeholders for the organization. Like, it just makes absolutely no sense. The only players that actually matter are the guys that are on the Calgary Wranglers and in juniors still. And the draft picks to be.
Well, I don't know about the only guys. Coronado's a big part of this, I think. Wolf's a big part of this, I think.
I was meaning, like, the young guys on the Flames as well. But
okay.
You know what I mean? Like, but, like, anybody over the age of 25, they're kind of irrelevant for this team. Like, they're all placeholders. Like, even getting Frost and Farabee last year was just to have literal placeholders while the young guys develop, in hopes that, by the time the young guys are ready, those guys can still contribute in some way. And it's just, it's just really frustrating to hear from management of, like, basically the league is smacking you upside the head saying, you guys suck, you need to actually do something to fix it. And they're like, oh, everything's fine. Like, no, it's not.
It's not fine. It undermines your fans.
It undermines their credibility as well as an organization.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, well, these people are freaking morons because they can't even see what's right in front of them.
Exactly. Yeah, Matt, I don't know. Like, I don't have answers. I haven't talked to anyone who knows. I don't know. I wonder, though, with Conroy still not signed, if this might be one of these, him or me scenarios where it's either we keep Maloney and Conroy leaves or we keep Conroy and Maloney leaves. I think if Conroy does not re-sign, this team's in a lot of trouble.
Oh, for sure. Honestly, if he's gone and, like, they go the Maloney route, I am canceling my season ticket.
Well, even if they bring in, like, let's say they bring in Jerome, just, I think he's kind of the heir apparent. Like, Conroy has a vision. I think no matter who you switch with, or you put Nonis in that role, right? Like, I don't think they go with Maloney. I think he's done as a GM. But let's say Nonis gets promoted there or something like that, or, who's the other AGMs? Peter Hanlon. I don't know. You bring in somebody else, or even someone from the outside. Like, at that point, we know that we're just bringing in a guy to follow the Maloney, ownership mentality, and this is never going to go anywhere. And I think that's when you're going to lose a lot of people.
Yep, myself included. Like, I will, like, it's ridiculous. Like, I don't want to spend thousands of dollars every year on a team that is not committed to actually doing anything properly in order to make this team I'd actually like to see them win a Stanley Cup someday. And, basically all that signals is that we're just going to continue to suck forever enjoy, congrats. Find another team if you actually want to care about the hockey games that you're watching.
Yeah. Yeah, you've had time to digest this. I've had time to digest this. Can you think of any other reason why Maloney did this, not Conroy? That's the only thing that makes sense to me, is that there's a strife in that room.
Yeah.
And you and I were wondering why Murray Edwards, the Flames owner, would have come out and made the Kadri comment. We said that was totally unlike him. That also, to me, points to the fact he's trying to put his stamp on, you know what? Craig talked about trading this guy. I don't want him to trade. I'm gonna come out and put my stamp on this. And then he can't, go against what the owner wants.
I know. It's just really, really stupid and inept management style. Like this team basically, with this has become a bit of a laughing stock around the league because, a 32nd place team is afraid to rebuild. Like, come on.
Well, and a 32nd place team that everybody knows needs a rebuild, right?
Yeah.
It's not like Edmonton is doing terrible. You could argue they probably don't need a rebuild. Vancouver's already done their rebuild. Like, they're having a bad year. This is a team that we all know needs the rebuild.
Well, and, there was further comments about saying that, we should have kept, some of the guys that we traded a couple of years ago, like the Hannafins and the Lindholms. And it's like, what are you on? Those guys didn't want to be here. Their cap hits would be extreme, and they're not very good. And, we'd be missing out on Gradine, because that was the Vancouver pick. I am, completely befuddled by the amount of stupidity that the Flames organization has been spewing this week.
And, again, it's unlike them. I mean, we've looked at some other markets, we say there's a buffoon owner, something like that. I mean, we've seen those, right? We look at a group like Buffalo. We say they've been poorly managed for years. I don't think this is the first time you and I have ever talked about the president of hockey ops in a negative way. I mean, who was it before him? It was Berkey. And did Berkey do some dumb shit? Sure, but that's Berkey, right? And I think Berkey you could have put Burke in this role and he would have not said dumb stuff, but he would have become the bad guy because the team needed a bad guy, if that makes sense. Like, the team needed someone to take the heat off them. That's not what Maloney did. Maloney was just said dumb things.
Yeah, and, it basically, all it does is puts into question the competence of the management group as a whole. And, if I'm looking at going and acquiring, insert name of player here, you've just reduced the offers that I'm going to give you because, well, obviously you guys are stupid, so maybe you'll take my bad offer. And, it's just a really dumb move by the Flames management. Yep.
And it makes me wonder because Maloney's been here for a long time. He's been AGM, he's been, vice president. It makes me wonder during the last summer when they were looking for the new GM, if Maloney interviewed for the job, the president, Murray Edwards, gave him the president of hockey ops because he sees eye to eye, and Conroy was the GM because, he's young and naive and we can control him.
Yeah. Well, and, the Flames basically have been near the bottom for competently run organizations anyway. This kind of moves them into a tie with Buffalo for worst run organization. And, at
least on the hockey side. There's a lot of things these guys do well. They do their ceremonies really well. I think they give you a great game day experience as a fan. But in terms of sort of hockey operations, I would agree with you.
Yeah, and, it pushes the Flames into being, in professional sports. It pushes them up towards being in the top 5 of most incompetently run organizations. And it's congrats. There is no excuse for this.
Yeah, and I've been sitting here all week trying to figure out why did you have Maloney do that interview, and that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, me too.
Like he's not good. Even when he was, on True Living staff, you never heard from the guy. We never heard from him last year.
Even when he was the GM of the Coyotes, you'd rarely hear from him.
Well, and he was in this role as president of Hockey Ops last year, and you never heard from him. I mean, again, you look at Ken King, you look at, Brian Burke. They were good at being the bad guy, and I think that's maybe what Maloney was trying to do. But, I don't know.
You basically made the team look like a clown show.
Yeah, you did. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know why your president wouldn't do that. And again, if let's say Conroy couldn't do it, he was sick, and you needed somebody competent. I mean, you've got Dave Nonis. People forget that. I don't think Nonis is the smartest hockey guy, but he's better in front of a microphone than Baloney is.
Yeah.
I
know.
This Maloney baloney, it's just like you said, I think the Flames have hurt themselves a lot in fans' eyes and in ticket holders' eyes, and I don't know what this does, and I don't know what the anticipation was that, they, what they're expecting to get out of it. Brendan Parker did the interview, is a rights holder. This is supposed to be a friendly outlet. He wasn't doing an adversarial interview. So if that's what happened with a friendly outlet, I'm sure they probably vetted the questions ahead of time, knowing the Flames. How did you mess this up so badly?
Honestly, this is one where, this was so bad where it, you begin to look every morning to see if Maloney's been fired. That's how bad, I
honestly do. So I think if Maloney is speaking for ownership, I don't think he gets fired. I think, sadly, Craig would be the guy who's out.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it would be Craig Conroy's out, and we'll find someone who will toe this line.
No.
Because if you were going to get rid of Maloney, it would have happened.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree.
If you need a competent hockey guy, I mean, let's play this out. Maloney gets fired as president of Hockey Ops. You need somebody senior. You move Nonis into that role, and you've still got Hanlon. You put Iggy as your, as your assistant GMs.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Nonis has literally been a GM since 2004.
I would argue he's more
GM.
qualified, and this is why I was confused when they first did this. I'd say Nonis is probably more qualified to be the president of Hockey Ops than Maloney is.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they first made that announcement, it was a little bit weird to me.
Yeah.
It sort of reminds me of when Jay Feaster was brought on as the AGM, sort of the heir apparent for when Daryl eventually got canned.
Exactly.
Where's Feaster these days? Maybe we need him back. No, I'm just kidding.
We're good.
If you want a bad team, he knew how to make a bad team for us.
No.
Sean Kelso and the media team for the Flames, they're very smart. They know who to put in front of cameras. The former head of that team, Peter Hanlon, is the assistant general manager. I don't know why I'm trying to figure out what happened in the GM's office when they say, we need somebody to talk to Parker. Let's put Maloney out. Unless, again, you're deliberately trying to sabotage your GM.
Yeah. And, it just makes the whole organization look like a clown show. And, this also impacts things like free agency because, why would you want to willingly come to a team that's going to be a bottom-end team that also has no competency?
Well, that's it. And I think if you're a bottom team, again, with a plan, look at Toffoli going to San Jose. There was a plan there, and he wanted to be part of that, and I can see that. But if you're just this, what the heck are the Calgary Flames? What the heck's going on there? I don't want to be part of this crap. Figure it out and give me a call when my contract ends. I'll sign somewhere else for 4 years, and then we'll see how you guys are doing. You're right. It makes this team, I think, look bad for everybody.
Yeah. Just Bush League and amateur. And it would be different if the Flames were in the middle of the pack, and then, sure, those comments make some sense. If, say, the Flames were 2 points out of a playoff spot right now. But at the time, they're 32nd out of a 32-team lead. There's no... there is no further down you can go.
No, and even last year when Conroy got the job, I mean, in his opening press conference, he pretty much used every word but rebuild to say what the long-term plan was. We know this. Yeah. This is not a surprise. I don't know, Matt. I'm getting more upset than I should be about Don Maloney.
Well, and honestly, it spreads to management, like the owner, and it's like, honestly, if you're going to run the team like that, please sell the team. Like, honestly, just go do something else with your life. Sell it to some other oil guy. And
I was going to say, there's enough money in this city. Somebody else would take that ownership spot.
Like, go buy the Oilers and have fun with them, okay? Like, take that vision and go up there. Like,
yeah, there's enough money in this city. If he wanted to sell it, someone else would buy it. Like, I don't know. I normally don't think about Don Maloney on a daily basis, but I've been thinking about him every day this week, and just what a stupid thing this was.
Yeah. Well, and you look at, like...
And I've been trying to look at it, is there some angle they don't see? Like, again, I've been saying, okay, is Maloney trying to become the bad guy so he can step down, or they can fire him later, and he's sort of taking one for the team? But, like, even that doesn't make sense to me.
No.
Again, I could see doing the Brian Burke thing and just becoming the bad guy, or even I think what Daryl Sutter did in his last run as coach a lot of times, like the night he said, oh, Peltier, what's his number? I think Daryl was trying to take a lot of the heat off his players. And I get that, and I respect that. And he was being the bad guy because they needed a bad guy. Maloney just looked like an idiot. He didn't look like a bad guy.
Yeah. No, and it's just disappointing, especially, like, one of the things that, we have, and, like, basically every Flames fan that I've talked to has been taking solace in with the team being in 32nd is, hey, at least they're going to rebuild now.
Craig's got a plan.
And that, we'll tear this down the right way because Craig's got a plan. And that, like, it's going to suck for a couple of years, but, you're going to be getting, like, one of the top 3 or 4 picks in the draft. And, one of those players, like, there was 5 franchise caliber players this year. You'll get one of them.
Yeah, and I mean, you and I have talked about it, Matt. We've never really had that pain. Like, it's our turn.
Yeah. Like, the best pick in Calgary Flames history is literally Sam Bennett, at a 4th overall, and that didn't turn out until we actually traded him.
I trusted in Conroy. Like, when Conroy was hired, you and I both said this is the right guy, right? He learned under Tree. He's well liked. I think he's the right guy, but now it almost feels like they brought him in and he's not doing what we want, so let's undermine him. And I mean, if Conroy doesn't re-sign, and even if he does re-sign as a puppet, it doesn't work. But if he doesn't re-sign and is able to execute his vision, this is going to go real bad. Like, if we think the Flames are already doing bad, this is going to go even worse real quick.
Oh, yeah. Well, and, like, basically kiss off any goodwill that this team has around the league in general.
Yeah.
And
even among the players, like the owner says, I don't want to move Kadri. Well, Kadri probably says, I don't want to stay in this clown show. Move me.
Yeah. Well, and basically Calgary then becomes a leper colony, basically like Buffalo, and then we enjoy. We don't see hockey in the playoffs until 2040.
Well, not in the NHL. We'll probably get some AHL hockey, but yeah. Like, it's the Flames, and it's not like, again, this historic. Like, this is the first time they've done this, but I wonder how much of this attitude has been in the background that we're just now seeing.
I know.
I don't know. Why am I so angry about this, Matt?
Well, the same reason I am. Like,
I love the Flames, and I want to see them go through a rebuild. They need a rebuild. Let's be honest. They need to rebuild. So let's just do it. Let's pull off the Band-Aid and let's do it.
Yeah, like, literally, it feels like the Flames are driving a 1986 Dodge Ram that's missing several components of the vehicle.
That'd be very Alberta, wouldn't it?
And it's like, the thing's falling apart. Why don't you go get a new truck? Like, and, it's one of those where, like,
but don't even get a new truck from the dealership, but go buy another used truck, a 30-year-old truck from the used car lot.
Yeah. I know. Like, it just, none of it makes any sense.
Like, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I don't want my blood pressure any higher, so I'm done talking about Don Maloney for the week.
Well, and you look at it, like, if the Flames were to trade Coleman, Kadri, and Andersson, you're likely going to get a first-round pick for each of them. You know, they're all going to be late end of the first-round picks, but, you know, you could walk away with 3 of them. That would mean the Flames would have 5 first-round picks this year. You want to do a rebuild quickly? Ta-da, there you go.
I'm wondering if maybe Craig is being blocked from doing that deal. Like, I'm wondering if maybe Craig is being told, you're not moving these guys. You're not going to trade for those picks. You know, this is not what's going on. And there's a strife between him and Maloney or ownership, or however you want to look at that. And that's what I'm wondering if we're seeing here is that, you know, this rebuild is being sabotaged. When the owner came out and said, I like Kadri, I want to keep him here, I honestly am now wondering, was there a deal on the table? Did Craig have a deal done and the owner didn't want it?
I'm beginning to wonder. And
like, you and I were surprised when the owner spoke up out of nowhere. It's the only thing now that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that, you know, and like you and I both thought at the time, well, it's probably because of the 1,000-game thing and not wanting it to be a distraction for that. But now that, like, that's passed, and now we're getting
at the time
Maloney
I
thing.
dismissed it, but now I'm putting together the pieces afterwards.
Yeah. I know. And it's just a big gong show, and, you know, like, you know, as a customer of yours, like, you know, like, I do not approve of this message at all.
No, and I don't know of any of their customers. Anyone I've talked to, hardcore fans like you and I, or casual fans like, you know, the guy at the end of the bar in my neighborhood bar here, I don't know anyone that said, wow, that Don Maloney sure is a smart fellow. Let's do that.
Well, literally, the handful of people that know that I do this, that I talk to on a regular basis, they all came up to me and were like, what the F was that?
Yeah, I mean, again...
And looking to me for answers, and I'm like, well, you're... you know, confusion and outrage is about the same as mine, so...
that's it.
Enjoy, congrats, like, you know, like, you've now, like, kind of galvanized the whole organization's fan base into thinking that you're dumb, and, like, what the hell are you on? And that's not a good look.
No, it's not. And, you know, again, it's like, what are we trying to achieve? Like, I want to know what they achieved there. And if it was just, you know what, we put the wrong guy out, I think it would have been remedied by now. Like, I think you would have had Craig Conroy do an 35-minute sit-down as soon as they got home for the Dallas game and invite all the media and let Conroy sort of talk his way out of it. The fact that they haven't, and we haven't, I mean, have you seen Craig Conroy this year?
No.
Do we know the man's alive?
No.
Like, they don't even show him on TV. Like, we're not seeing him anymore. It makes me think...
like, you get the occasional soundbite through the media from him, but that's literally it. Like,
yeah, I mean, but it's like, it's a quote. We didn't actually hear him say it. I mean, I've been looking back at, like, Tree Living and stuff like that, and he would go on Fan 960 or whatever and do 10 minutes here and there. Like, we haven't heard from... I don't even think we got, like, since opening day, I don't think we've had anything from him. Like, I think he's being neutered.
Yeah, and the whole situation is just a gong show, and it's becoming more and more so with each passing day. Like, it's just, you know, everybody in the clown car.
I wonder if this might partly be the reason why the players are going, okay, we've got to stand up for our organization, but even that's only going to last so long.
Yeah, like, especially, like, the opponents that they face this week, they struggle mightily in all 3 of those
They struggle
buildings.
against everybody, let's be honest.
Yeah, but especially, like, over the last 5 years, they've struggled in Carolina, Tampa, and Florida. And
struggled historically in Buffalo, too.
True. But it is Buffalo, so... Eh.
Like,
yeah, no, it's just... I don't get it.
No, and I think there will be a mass exodus of season ticket holders and even corporate ticket holders, which is really what I think is the big thing, is the boxes, right? The corporate ticket holders, if this continues.
Yeah, because, like, you know, if this rudderless, you know, waffling keeps going on, like, I can drop my season tickets for however long and then pick them up when they start looking good again. Yeah,
and I could see if Conroy came in, he was doing something unprecedented. If he's the first guy to say, you know what, let's be bad to get better. Like, no one's ever heard of this. I don't know if we want to do that. Let's bring Maloney in to keep you in check. Conroy's doing exactly what the plan is, the established plan. If you or I were GM, we'd be doing the exact same thing. If Nonis was GM, he'd be doing the same thing. If Jerome was GM, he'd be... Name anyone you think could be GM. They'd be doing the exact same thing if they needed to rebuild.
Yeah, like we've seen like 8 or 9 veteran guys getting shipped off over the last handful of years. Guys like Mangiapane, Markstrom, you can keep going all the way back to Zadorov, and like that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to cash out the veteran guys, get some assets, use the draft picks or whatever you got, and go from there, and cycle the deck chairs, and like even turning Kuzmenko and Peltier and the Mangiapane pick basically into Frost and Farabee. At least that furthered the rebuild in a way by getting 2 established vets that you could subsequently trade like 2 or 3 years from now. And no part of it it would be one thing like if it was just slightly deviating from what has happened and what should happen, but this is like completely in left field of, well, we've been going right this way for 3 years now.
And if you are going to deviate like you're saying, I would expect it to be Maloney and Conroy doing that interview together and saying, as an organization, we're moving in this direction.
Yeah.
The whole thing that surprised me here is that we heard from Maloney and we haven't heard anything from Conroy.
Yeah.
And even when it didn't go well, I mean, nobody in the Flames organization can think that went well. I half expected they would have paraded Conroy out before the Dallas game when they were at home and said, let's do an hour sit down or something to get the Don Maloney taste out of our mouths. But no one's heard from him. And that's the part that's weird to me.
Yeah. And it'll be telling, like, especially as the Flames are likely going to continue to struggle through December. If this team continues to suck and we don't start hearing rumors of, insert name here of the guys that should go, All
right, let me ask you this. If the Flames feel they need a scapegoat and they get rid of Craig Conroy, worst move they can make?
Yep.
I agree.
Honestly, Conroy has
after this, I can see it happening. I couldn't have seen it happening a week ago. I could see it happening now.
Yep. No, and honestly, if they get rid of Conroy, I'm kind of giving up on the team. Like, because it'll just be a Maloney yes man, Edwards yes man, and who cares?
And we know where they'll be. They will be back to the Tree era. And as fun as that era was, it was... I mean, look at what Tree did. Every year you give up a first to bring in a Hamonic or, a Tanev. You fall short, and you do the same thing next year. And it was let's constantly be in competition mode. And that's fine to some extent, but that's not what Flames fans want anymore. If we're in a fringe market,
would like to actually
I can see
the
that.
cup.
Yeah. And I can see some markets who need that. There's some markets that probably don't make any money if they're not close to the playoffs. That's the right strategy for some markets. Maybe I'm naive. I think Calgary market will support the Flames through a rebuild once they say they're in a rebuild. I mean, I remember a few markets doing it where they sent out a letter to their fans saying, we're bad now. Just a memo to all fans. We're rebuilding.
Yeah.
And the Flames haven't. They've done everything they can to avoid that word. And even when Maloney used the word, he came up with some, I don't even remember what he said, buggle or something. Like he made up some dumb word to avoid using that word.
Yeah, and it just, all of it, like it would be one thing if the Flames were closer to a playoff spot, but when you're dead last in the NHL at the time, and now one spot up from that, get off the pot. Like,
well, that's it. Like, and again, it'd be one thing if the Flames were maybe... Let's say they'd won the Cup 4 times in the last 7 years, and they had a bunch of veterans, and the question was, sort of like in Pittsburgh has been, do we make another run, or do we start the rebuild? Then I could see there being some consternation of, Craig wants to start the rebuild, Maloney wants to make one more run, and the owner wants to make one more run with his vets. And I could totally see
it. And take the St. Louis Blues that I brought up before. the year before that, they were actually a really good team, and basically at the beginning of that year, everything went wrong. Everybody was hurt. They were dead last in the NHL at the end of January. And Armstrong, he literally told his team that we're going to start shipping you guys out unless you start playing better. And, basically said, we're rebuilding. Enjoy. Congrats. And they pulled their head out of their posterior and got going. But the Flames have missed the playoffs for the last 3 years, and like 5 out of the last 6. This team is not a good team.
And that's okay.
And that's perfectly okay.
But admit it and move on.
Yeah, the Flames screwed up when Iginla was, the last few years when Iginla was here. They really should have started the rebuild in 2010 or 2011. Took till 2013 when they were free agents and they had to just get whatever. Much like the Lindholm year where, forced into trading them.
There's an old Chinese proverb, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. The best time to rebuild was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now.
Yeah, exactly. And
just do it.
Well, and realistically, it's not like there's a ton of guys that are worth trading right now. You're not going to trade the young guys because you want to establish them as players in the NHL, like Coronado, for the long term. But, you only have, guys like Huberdeau, Sharangovich, the guys that we've been talking about all night.
I don't think you get anything for
Backlund.
Sharangovich.
No, but, those are the only parts that are, in the, we could trade these at some point. Not that you'll get a return for them necessarily like Huberdeau or Sharangovich, but, they're not core long-term pieces. There's only, 6 guys that are, should be shown the door. And, it makes sense to trade 3 of them because they're prime assets that you can get a lot of draft capital for.
Make that 7. Don Maloney should be shown the door.
True.
Right? After that, I didn't care about him before this. He's president of Hockey Ops, great. You want some guy who's
experienced. It's literally
to be
like any of the...
It made sense.
Yeah, it's like any insert, third, fourth guy in the organization. Who cares?
Yeah, and when we had Berkey as the president of Hockey Ops with an inexperienced tree, it made sense. Sure, Maloney's president of Hockey Ops, great. That's wonderful. He's another guy in the room. Now, just move on.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were trying to achieve, and I don't know that they achieved anything. In fact, I think they got negative results from this.
Oh, significantly. Because, they've hurt the trade values of their players. They've hurt the organization.
And again, I don't even know if they're going to make the trade now. I still think that the issue in the room is probably Maloney and the owners say, Craig, you're not allowed to trade these guys. And Craig's trying to make a deal.
Yeah. Well, and, I'm, to be honest, ever since that interview dropped, I've been expecting an Andersson extension. Ever since, which would be, for the long-term outlook of the team, the dumbest thing they could do. And, I'm just expecting that any day now, to be honest.
Yeah, I honestly, I think if that happens at this point, you would see Craig Conroy fired, and then you'd see something like that happen. If they're going to do something like that, I think that Craig's not going to do it.
No.
And I also think that if Craig's fired, I don't know that Andersson wants to come back. We all heard that they brought in the coach and the GM that the players wanted, and if that were to happen, let's be honest. If they say, hey, Craig's been out here fighting for you guys to do the rebuild. He's gone. Old man Maloney's in charge. I can see Andersson saying, well, I'm out of here too.
Yeah. Well, and just to quote Frank Saravalli, he said the sooner that Conroy and the rest of the Flames staff don't have to report to Don Maloney is the sooner that the rest of the franchise will be better off.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, let's be honest here, I don't think it's Maloney on his own. I think Maloney's fine. I think Maloney is the voice of ownership, and that's what Ken King told us too. And I think you need somebody in that role who's brave enough, maybe is the word I'll use, to say to the owners, we're hockey operations, let us do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I totally think that Murray Edwards feels the way that Maloney said. I totally do, from everything we know. But that's the president of hockey ops' job, is to represent ownership. And like you said, if he can't get on board, maybe he needs to move the team, not out of the city, but to a different owner who sees that. But I think you need a president of hockey ops. I can't see Berkey rolling over to the owner. Like, I think you need a guy like that who's willing to say, no, we're doing it our way.
Yep.
Tell me how much money I've got to work with. I'll get you butts in the new building. Let me figure out how to get there.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that, like, as I mentioned, like, if the Flames walked out of the trade deadline day with like 4 or 5 first-round picks this year, like, it took how long for, Perek and Gradin to make the NHL, and like, you're going to get one of the top 5 picks at that rate. So that guy will be in the NHL lineup next year. And, potentially more like the following year. Like, all of a sudden you have like about 15 good young players coming up through the organization ready to take prime spots. Like, you can actually have a young, exciting team when the building opens. Or you can have Nazem Kadri. Like,
we saw Carolina's owner meddle. We saw Tampa Bay's owner meddle. It never turns out well.
No. Like, you could literally be like San Jose, Montreal, Chicago, where on the upswing, Anaheim, where like looking like the powerhouses to be.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's because they've given their hockey ops autonomy.
Yeah.
I mean, even here at home, remember when that weird guy who ran the box company bought the Stampeders and made his son the GM? Like, you need to separate ownership and man. And if Murray wants to be the GM, then he should just fire Conroy and he should be the GM.
Yep. Exactly. And, like,
remember that show Deal or No Deal, where they had the mysterious banker who made the phone calls? That's sort of what it feels like. Like, Murray's this looming, ominous, we've got to call him for him, make a deal. Oh, sorry, the banker said I can't.
Yeah. I know. Like, it's just, the whole situation just feels untenable to, like, I understand that they're trying to build, like, a winning culture. You literally took that idea out back and shot it multiple times. Like, you
and Murray likes his core. You know what he likes more is the Stanley Cup, or at least I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah, because, like, myself, like, I'm getting tired of watching guys like Coleman and Backlund and Kadri, not because of them as players, but because they have no future on this team. Let's move on to the next page, please.
That's right. They're supposed to be placeholder veterans. Let's get them out of here while they're still holding that place.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, let's talk about next week. My blood pressure's high. I don't want to have a heart attack talking about Murray and Don Maloney, and let's move on.
Yep.
Flames played 4 games this last week. You and I got our predictions wrong. I thought we'd win Chicago, Vancouver, lose Dallas, Buffalo. You thought we'd win Chicago, lose the other 3.
Instead, I got everything wrong.
That's right. I at least thought we would beat Vancouver.
Yeah.
3 games on the docket for the Flames this week. They're still on their road trip. They have a couple days off, and on Wednesday night they will be in Tampa Bay for a 5 p.m. Calgary start time, taking on the Lightning. Then Friday night they have a 2 p.m. start time, which is so weird, but I guess it's American Thanksgiving. 2 p.m. on a Friday. They do not play Hockey Night in Canada, one of the few weeks they won't be playing on a Saturday night, and instead a Sunday game at 3 p.m. 3 games in the docket. What are you thinking?
0 for 3.
Really? After this week?
Yep. I think they'll get manhandled by all 3 teams.
Do you think we see Cooley?
Yep. Probably in the Florida game.
It pains me after this week to think they go 0-3. Like, just they're turning the corner to have it shut in their face, but it is the most realistic option, isn't it?
Yeah. The game that I could see them winning is Florida, just because they're off to a slow start because of not having Barkov and Kachuk. But yeah,
no back-to-backs. We're learning they're doing okay in back-to-backs. I'm gonna go a win against Florida, lose the other two. I think that Cooley's in net for that one.
Mm-hmm.
That's my guess. The 2 p.m. start time in Florida, I think Cooley's in net for that, and they get the win there. And then they've got Nashville. This is open December, and that's going to be an easier game. But, yeah, I think it's a rough week, man. After what we have, they need a week they can build on, not a week to get the door slammed back in their face.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it looks like, like if you're wanting to get that 7 or 8 game winning streak, these are not the 3 opponents that you want to be facing.
No. Well, that's what I mean. Like, you want to keep this momentum going, even if you don't win. I think you want to keep the momentum going. Now, we've seen them do okay against okay teams with Dallas, with Winnipeg. I think the Flames can be in these games. I don't necessarily think they're going to get blown out, but I don't think... I could see them maybe getting a point against Carolina, but I don't think you're going to get 2 wins.
No. The 5 games after that, though, it's basically easy pickings. You got Nashville, Minnesota, Utah, Buffalo, too, and Detroit. So, not a lot of good teams amongst them, but
nope.
We'll see. I'm not
1 week at a time.
Let's
not look ahead till they're done with this Florida and East Coast trip.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, I'm gonna go calm down because I've never been so angry about Don Maloney in my life. I've never even thought about Don Maloney this much in my life, even though he's a member of this organization. I don't care about Don Maloney, but I'm gonna go calm down, and hopefully next week we won't be ranting about Maloney.
This reminds me so much of the Glenn Gulletson should be fired rant that I went on, and we should hire Daryl.
Oh yeah, this is the one where I just let you rant, and I left and went and did something else.
Yeah. Yeah, it has that kind of feel of,
when in doubt, the Flames seem to bring in Daryl. Maybe they'll bring him in as the new GM.
Yep.
Or promote his kid to be like, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm without words. Yeah.
What would be worse, Don Maloney or Daryl Sutter? We learned Daryl was a good coach, a terrible GM. That's why we ended up with some of those trades he made near the end.
Yeah.
Who is that guy we got from New York that everybody hated?
Alish Kodalich.
That's right. Yeah, I knew his name started with an A.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think Maloney's smart enough to know he shouldn't be GM, but I'm just worried that they get rid of Conroy and bring in somebody who just follows Maloney.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Is Brad Pascal still around in the Flames organization? Maybe it's him.
Yeah, possibly.
I think he's still the assistant GM and Wranglers GM. I don't know. Yeah. He just seems like the kind of guy who has been passed over a number of times, and you might say, hey, kid, we're going to bring you up, and you're expecting he's kind of forever indebted to you because of it. I don't know. I'm going to look at the hockey operations. Yeah, he is. So we have Dave Nonis, Brad Pascal, and Peter Hanlon as the assistant GMs. Brent Crom's looking for a job. Make him GM.
Yeah.
Is Button available again? He was the worst GM in Flames history. Bring him back.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, honestly, it just, yeah.
Right,
I have no words.
I'm gonna go shovel and cool down, both figuratively and literally, and I will talk to you next week.
Yep. And as always, go Flames, go.
Fireside Chat is hosted by Dan Stevenson, co-hosted by Matt DeBorg. This episode produced and edited by Peter Marino. Fireside Chat is licensed under Creative Commons license. For full license details, visit firesidechat.ca.